Hey everyone. So we are trying something very new today. We have our very first video interview. And you will see my eyes move around a little bit. I have some notes to look at, and it's really very special. So I would love for you guys to leave comments, let me know what you think about it, and see how it all goes. So wish me luck. So the special treat in this interview today is Per Bristow. He's the world's most followed voice and performance coach. That's pretty cool, Per. That's pretty cool.
Oh well, I
Yeah,
don't.
and modest too, pretty modest.
Well,
So
I have a big following, but I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that I am the first on your video,
you
the first
absolutely are.
interview subject. This is wonderful.
You absolutely are. So, well, welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Now let's get into this because quite often we will introduce people with a little bit of information, but I've got you here. So, can you give me kind of the Cliff Notes version of your journey into where you are and how it's all happened and how we are today?
It's been a strange journey.
Yeah.
No, but well, so people know me as a voice and performance coach, and I've I think it's so interesting on many different levels. I started off as a musician as a kid, and then I wanted to get into sports, and so I focused more on sports. And then in high school, I was frankly pretty introverted, pretty shy, and it was kind of interesting. Why am I so afraid in certain situations and very confident in other situations? And I had never sung anything at that time, but I had played music. I was a violin player. And I thought it was so interesting, this thing about expressing with a voice. So I sort of fell in love with that idea and started to train, and then I became a performer. And then I was actually a full-time music teacher right after high school, so I've always loved to teach. And so I love to learn myself, and I love to help other people to draw out what people are capable of, but they probably aren't aware of that they're capable of. So I love teaching and coaching.
Fantastic. So, well, you're extremely successful now. So, do you think that that is a natural ability? Like you've come to this, and I know in my research I've had a look at a few great stories of how you share this. So, that lovely grin tells me that you have something special to share. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on natural ability and whether you think that that's had anything to do with you making it to your success today.
Well, you know that I don't like the word talent. It's such a strange word because what do we mean by that? The only thing that we know is the skill that someone has in the moment. And and I developed my dislike for the word talent when I was considered very talented as a violin player. But then, like I said, sports, I wasn't really considered all that talented in sports, but then I did become one of the top youth athletes in Sweden, where I'm from originally. I'm in Los Angeles these days. But what I do love, and what I've always loved to, and what I tapped into, is how do you learn something effectively? How can I actually, even on the violin, I developed sort of my method of how can I learn a piece by Friday. That was sort of my task, my inner task. How can I get these fingers going? And then I realized, wait a minute, how can that transfer to other areas in my life? How can I change something? So even if I've achieved some success in some areas, the interesting thing is the journey. How do you actually become good at something? So these days people think I'm a good communicator and that kind of stuff, but was I? No, I wasn't. That was my weakness in high school. So where's the talent? Well, the talent, or the skill rather, that I've developed is how to actually tap into some kind of inner ability to actually improve something in a very effective way. So that ties into developing a voice, which is very psychological, developing an instrument, or even now learning how to run a business. I had no clue how to run a business when I started out doing my online business. How do you learn something effectively? And that's what I've become good at. But I think my greatest skill is probably to transfer that to other people. So even if I can do something, how can I help someone else develop a skill effectively, rapidly, which ties into developing the awareness of the body and the mind, and then how can we release the restrictions, including fears that we have, and and then how can we actually improve something in a very effective way? And that, I think, is fun.
Yeah. Oh, I had a little look at your chat with the urban monk, which was really, really great.
Okay.
And had a look at the fear. Of course, doing this first interview by video with you, it certainly had my blood pumping a little bit. And I thought, holy cow, how am I going to manage this? I got quite nervous about it.
Right.
But really loved your strategy on fear as rather than running away from it,
Yeah.
having to just see it as being a need to be prepared.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And it's interesting that beginner singers often think that professionals don't get nervous, but that's not the case at all. As a matter of fact, professional singers might experience not only nervousness but serious anxiety, serious fear, especially if you have a big concert and your voice isn't functioning. That is scary. So using fear to our benefit is actually a way to tap into an aspect of peak performance, which is also something I draw from my sports background. How do you perform at your best when it matters the most? How do you actually create that mental state, if you will, to perform very, very well? And as a matter of fact, fear is an important component in that. And the big problem is when we're not aware of fear. So that's why I'm such a big on awareness in all kinds of ways. But the awareness of fear is actually very, very powerful. So when someone says they're nervous, I say, wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
I'm sure they feel exactly the same way.
Yeah. And the problem is when we become afraid of that, and people ask me, how do I get over my nervousness? I don't like it. I want to stop being nervous. So the nervousness is really not the problem. It's your fear of the nervousness that's the bigger problem. And it's often the secondary thing that becomes the bigger problem. So that's also part of training, learning. It's skill development. It's not just a mindset of positive thinking. It really is a skill to develop that so it becomes an automatic response. And that, of course, applies to life in so many areas, not just getting up on stage or doing something you've never done before, but when things aren't going well in life, there's a lot of fear in that, a lot of stress. We're all stressed. How do we actually become aware of it in the first place and then do something about it so we actually become more creative, more productive, we feel better, we feel more confident, we can sleep at night, we wake up inspired and excited. So it ties into so many life things, but that also ties into then if you're afraid of the high notes, you're afraid of the singing in front of the audience, am I going to remember the lyrics and all these kind of things. How do you actually reverse that, and then you go up on stage and you feel, this feels so good.
And a lot of people probably don't even know that that's a choice for them, right? They just feel like that's how it is and that it's a getting over thing. It's not a dealing with thing. It's, I just have to vanquish this.
Yeah, and that's nothing we learn in school, let's face it. And some people then experience from a young age that they start loving to be in that situation because they notice it went well. And then the memory of it going well wants them to do more, and then they become confident in a certain situation, and that was more circumstance rather than skill that made that happen. And even a person who's always been confident, the day, like for example when the voice isn't functioning and so forth, then they don't have a skill to go to because now the world has fallen apart. Things are suddenly not working and they don't know what to do. And that's what I do then when I work with professionals who may have had a very successful career. Things are going well and suddenly it don't go well. But other people have, of course, had the opposite experience, many, especially when it comes to singing and expressing. Been told to shut up, been told they don't sound good, weren't allowed in the choir as kids, and come to believe they can't sing. And that's, I think, is very sad because it has nothing to do with their potential, whatever happened in that moment. But then I've come to believe that being in front of an audience, being in front of people, is something that triggers fear, triggers pain, right? So a lot of people have not only performance anxieties but social anxieties, and we could argue that I had a little bit of that in high school in certain situations, right? Especially when it came to girls. I mean, we become very fearful in certain situations because we put so much value in it. We want it to go well. I hope I'm saying the right thing, and we become very self-conscious, and often that doesn't work out very well.
Yeah.
So how do we actually become confident in with other people, or expressing on stage, or if we're even when we sing in a choir, to have that sense of freedom that I'm part of this, creating this wonderful experience for not only my choir members but also for the people in the audience. I mean, it ties into so many areas of our life, and it's so important for us to be able to express and communicate and bond with other people.
Yeah. So what was it about singing in particular then? Is there some particular way that we gain from being able to sing?
Well, I think singing is a fascinating instrument. First of all, the voice itself is so fascinating. It's the main tool we have for communication, and like we talked about, communication is so important on so many levels. There's a reason why every culture sings, why every child sings. We could argue that every baby sings before we're able to put sentences together, before we can construct words. Now, an adult who is very judgmental might say, no, that's not singing because it's not notes. Well, it's expressing with your voice. That's what it is. And we did that as babies until we were told to shut up. And like we mentioned, a lot of people have been told that, or come to believe that expressing is not a good thing. A child should be seen and not heard. So it's very psychological, but there's also a reason why we're so attracted to singers. Why singing shows on TV are so popular, right? All these, well, we have American Idol, you have Australian Idol, all these shows.
We do, and The Voice, and all of those.
There's a reason why we're so attracted to a singer, a voice, right? It just creates that, and that's why in every culture, then, unless it's a repressed society, a repressed culture, we sing. We sing to celebrate, we sing in joy, we sing in sorrow, we sing in all kinds of ways. It's a way, happy birthday, we sing. Unfortunately, in many ways, and sometimes these singing competitions do not help in this area, because it tends to become now very judgmental. That, that person sings well and that one doesn't. And singing is one of those disciplines then that people believe that either you can or you can't, that it's about talent and not talent, right? And it becomes such a judgmental thing, which culturally it shouldn't be. Everybody sings, everybody expresses. And then, of course, depending on how we train and our ambitions, we can, of course, become a lot better. But like I wrote in an article, I don't have to beat Roger Federer to enjoy playing tennis.
Right.
But I can still improve from where I am if I learn effective strategies, and of course when I improve, it becomes so much more fun. But can you improve dramatically from where you are today? Of course you can. And that's my job as a coach, to lead you through a process where you discover how to do that. So there's no limit to what you can do.
Yeah. So you talk a lot about professional singers. Do you work with people who aren't professional singers, people who just really feel that need, that the time has come for them to really unlock that power of self-expression?
Yeah, because I think it's so important that everybody recognizes this amazing instrument that they have within. Like we say, every culture sings, everybody. It's such a powerful activity, and there's a reason also why it brings with so many positive health benefits to be engaged in singing. And so, I've been doing my live events now, and I'm coming to Melbourne. Yay!
You are?
I in these live events, and I have a video up also where I ask someone in the audience if they believe they're tone deaf. And usually there's someone in the audience who says yes. And I ask them why. Well, because they've never sung and they've been told they couldn't sing. And every time they try to sing, they're not matching notes. And in 5 minutes, I have them sing on key before, and they don't even know the note that's going to I tell them to say one, two. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. I play a chord, a random chord, and they sing the note exactly on pitch.
Yeah.
But and people think there's some kind of trickery in post-production. I've changed the pitch or auto-tune or something like that. No, it is because we actually tap into something in the brain that is so incredibly quick. And the reason we can tap into that is because we actually let go of the judgment and the fear and the
Yeah.
anticipation of trying to hit notes, and instead release the voice, release the fear, and now it not only sounds better, but singing notes actually becomes the easiest thing in the world. So I think it's so rewarding, both as a coach to help people discover that, and it is of course so rewarding for those people. So I've had so many different kinds of examples, and I just love them all. We've had, like this 78-year-old man who was told he couldn't, well, he couldn't sing in his school choir when he was a kid, and he was told, you'll never be able to sing. I don't understand what kind of belief system ever expresses something like that. But he also, as a kid, he might have misinterpreted what the person said. It might have just been, you're not ready today. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, come to believe that singing is not his thing, and then realizes now he would love to be part of the community and sing in a choir. So he started doing my program, and I realized, wow, he can sing.
Yeah.
Of course he can, and you realize that with a short amount of time, he can improve dramatically. So age is irrelevant, and no, seriously, singing it's such a wonderful activity on so many levels, and I just encourage everyone to be involved in it somehow and not be afraid of it.
Yeah. So you've got an incredibly successful program with teaching online with the Singing Zone. So how does singing work for people learning at home? How do you give coaching there?
Right, good question. And that is why I do things a little bit differently. First of all, from this conversation, we've already realized that it's not about just trying to sing notes and hit the notes and try to sound in a certain way. It really is about freeing something much more profound, in my humble opinion. But the result of that is that you sound much better. You can develop the range, the strength, the dynamics, and sing on key much, much easier, frankly. So my job is to lead you through a process where you discover that. So the old traditional way is I'll play scales, listen, try to copy, and then you try to do things to sound better. So that is very difficult to improve by yourself, because now you feel that you want someone to give you feedback and tell you, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What should I be doing?
Yeah.
So instead, what I do is I lead you through a discovery process where you start feeling things on a different level, and you recognize, oh, okay, tension I've been holding on to that I've never realized. How to make this vibration happen with less stress, with less push, with less effort, all these kind of things. And frankly, you don't want anyone in the room to tell you if you're doing something right or wrong in that moment.
Right.
You want to be by yourself and explore and discover, and that is frankly how you learn effectively. So I'm really teaching you to become your own coach in that sense, so that you start feeling things, and then you recognize that the range, you want to sing those high notes. The reason that's not happening is, one, because of weakness, you haven't developed the muscles yet, and two, because the muscles are being blocked by some kind of restriction.
Right.
Which is part psychological also, the fear of the voice is going to crack, I'm not going to sound good. Well, you don't want to do that in front of people. You want to be in your own room and explore and give yourself permission. And that's also why. So the reason it's become so successful is because people get such dramatic results. But they get dramatic results not because of what I say, because their engagement in that fun discovery process. And that's how you develop.
Right.
And that's what I did as a violin player. Yes, I had teachers who inspired me, gave me pieces, and told me certain things. But it's the discovery process when I'm at home to figure things out, which I have become good at then. That's when I developed at a rapid pace.
Yeah. And even on your own, sometimes that realization of what you are feeling can be very scary. And that can take time. So it's not even about the next part of the process. It's dealing with you knowing that you have that fear and what's finally come to light and trying to deal with that first.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And that's why step number one is to give permission for whatever sound to come out, which you won't do if I'm playing the piano and you're trying to match my notes. You're not going to give yourself that kind of permission. You're just not. You're going to want to try to impress me, the teacher. You're going to try to do it right, because otherwise someone's going to tell you, oh, you're flat.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important that we have that time by ourselves. And that's also how you develop the functionality, the muscle isolation. And that's also what trains your brain to then be able to perform at high levels. And that's the peak performance aspect, which I so love to teach, which is the next step. But it actually starts by that giving yourself permission and not judging the result and not being in that mindset of, am I doing it right or wrong, or am I going to miss now, right? We can't have those thoughts, but that's also training to get used to that.
Yeah. So you've got a show coming up in Melbourne, and we're talking about lots of teaching and giving permission and people being up on stage. So what can people expect from your Melbourne show? But also, are they going to need to have already given themselves permission to sing when they get up on stage with you? What happens?
Well, you need to give yourself permission to come. And honestly, that's a big fear for a lot of people. Yeah, I would like to go there, but it's much easier to just not do it. It's always easier to not do anything, right? So that is a step, to just come. Now, everybody's not going to go get up on stage, and you don't have to feel that you are going to get up on stage. So what I'm going to do there in these live events, and I've done live events here in the US and Canada so far, and we're doing Melbourne then March 12th. How do you say that? I'm from Sweden.
However it comes. There's no right or wrong, remember? It's however it comes out.
Thank you. And then we're doing London in May. But here's the thing. These live events gives me an opportunity, first of all, to meet people and be in person and actually be on stage and try to be a role model as far as being on stage with these things that we're talking about. But also it gives me an opportunity to really go deeper with these things that we're talking about. This, first of all, how do you train a voice effectively? That's, of course, number one. But it's not a singing workshop per se that we're going to do just vocal exercises, because again, you could do that at home. So we don't need to do that. Yeah. But I'm going to show you some really powerful ways of how to develop the voice. But then also the psychology of success, if you will, meaning how do you make a practice session successful, or how do you make your life more successful? And to become aware then of the fears and the restrictions and these things that we all have. We don't need to deny. We don't need to think that I'm more confident if I say, no, I'm not afraid. No, that's not confidence. That's not confidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Confidence is, I'm really scared and I'm giving my permission to do it. That's more confidence, actually. So
Geez, I'm glad you said that. So the preface to this video then of really coming to terms with the fear and saying, rightio guys, I'm going to be reading my notes, and just being open about it is a great place to start.
And people love you for it.
Yeah.
And
I hope so.
And if you pretend that, I'm perfect, I do that. No, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
So there's no better way to really illustrate and go through these things than on stage and together in a room. And then, so the rapid skill development aspect of it, the psychology of achievement, effective practice, becoming a more effective communicator, what is confidence, how do you actually become more confident, how can you choose to become more confident, which ties into charisma, ties into being able to influence an audience, because if you're a performer, there's some kind of influence you have on the audience. To be able to create that wonderful energy in the room, it could be a one-on-one in an interview. It could be all kinds, or a job interview, on a video, whatever it might be. To be able to somehow create some kind of energy and feel good about it and feel confidence, if you will.
Right.
so it ties into the communication, which is so important in so many areas of our life.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference, really. I mean, we don't need to talk about making money, but honestly, becoming more valuable to someone has very much to do with that, being able
Mm-hmm.
to communicate in a sense. And communication is not about saying the right words, by the way. It really is about being able to resonate with another person. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, but then what I was going to say also then to these things about peak performance. How do you
Right.
perform well under pressure? How can you be the one who becomes creative in a crisis situation? Wow, that is going to make you very valuable in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just positive thinking. It
And I
really
did
is a
love that.
training the nervous system.
Yeah, and when it comes to spontaneity and making decisions and being creative, we'll put this video in because I just found it incredible for you to really illustrate what that meant. In being creative isn't just about being able to draw pictures or paint with a brush. It's about making spontaneous decisions. It's about being able to think on your feet and not recognizing the right or wrong, but okay, I'm in it. So, how do we deal with it? Not how do I get out of it, but how can I make the best of
Right.
what's going on right now? And I know a lot of our teachers and students, if it's a new piece of music they're learning, maybe it's a teacher who's new to teaching,
Yes.
and things don't go quite to plan, and you need to think of a way that keeps your students engaged, particularly in a shared lesson. If
Right.
you've got 5 students in the room and you lose your way, then okay, so maybe that way isn't it anymore. Maybe we're going a different way, and you can think on your feet.
Oh, I love that. That is such great examples. And so when I coach, and I think that's probably one of my strengths as a coach, is that you could argue that I'm being creative all the time, and but not for the sake of being creative. It's because I have a deep passion and understanding and
Hmm.
empathy with other people, which
Right.
frankly sometimes is a benefit having been very, very introverted. So
Mm.
this thing about being a performer or a teacher, you don't have to be an extrovert to be that. It has nothing to do with it. But anyway, so being able to be spontaneous and creative in that situation, and again, that gives you confidence. That means
Yeah.
I can do something with this. And it's interesting that many of my students that I have private students, they often say that I feel like I'm not coming to a lesson, I'm coming to create something, which it is. They're creating something
Wow.
within, they're discovering something, they're trying things. And it's like, and then they go out and say, wow, I discovered something about myself that I didn't know.
Yeah.
We get tied into sports. Being able to perform well under that last, I don't know if you saw, I did an interview with George Mumford, who worked with the Chicago Bulls during the Michael Jordan era.
Ah, yes.
He
Yep.
was the mental coach. But that's for an athlete to be able to perform well under that crucial last minute of a game. That's
Yep.
about spontaneity and creativity, because you do not know what the opponent is going to do.
Right.
Have you trained? Have you prepared for these situations? Of course you have. Right? Do we know the lyrics? Of course we do. Do we know what we're going to say? Do we know the lesson plan? Absolutely. We know this stuff. That's homework. But
Yep.
in the moment, when something amazing happens that we didn't know was going to happen, it becomes something better than we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
That's creativity. Writing songs, solving a huge problem. Now we realize that creativity that came out of that problem, and this I'm going to tell some at the live event, I'm going to tell some really powerful stories about this that everybody's going to be able to tap into and go, ah, yeah, I could do that in my life too, right?
We love those moments. The aha moments are great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
But
But how wonderful that you can let people tap into that. It was when I got to Simply Music, Neil Moore introduced me to a program that totally unlocked even just the idea of choice for
and
me.
this is why I love what you do, by the way, which is why we're doing this in the first place. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's yeah, just really incredible to know that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to always be scared. And whether it's I still in working in the playground and trying to find great topics that resonate with our audience. We like to find things that are going to help people. And whether you're a student or a teacher, or if you haven't done your homework, you know, maybe you're not Michael Jordan and you haven't done your homework and you're not prepared, and you go into a lesson and your teacher says, right, can you show me what it is that you practiced this week? And instead of coming up with an excuse, because you know you probably should have practiced and you should have done what was requested, how are you going to deal with that?
Right. And frankly, a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about also at the event is not only how to make a practice session effective, but actually how you make it fun. So when you practice by yourself, it actually becomes fun. And if it's fun, you're going to want to do more of it. And you're going to look forward to the next day. It's not going to be a chore, oh, I have to do my practice. No, you're going to look forward to it. And guess what that does to your level of improvement, right? Of course, you're going to improve dramatically.
And that's a real physical response when you want to improve, when your body physically reacts to that and says, great, give me some more.
That's right. And we'll also talk about the neuroscience behind that and how it actually does have dramatic effects inside of our body.
Fantastic. Well, I have one last question for you, Per, and I'm going to look at my notes because I love this question. So at Simply Music, we talk about a world where everyone plays. So you might refine that to a world where everyone sings. So what do you think that world might look like?
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah.
Yes. Isn't that beautiful? Like we talked about, right? A repressed society or a community, family, that's when singing is not allowed. But to have that permission to sing, to play music, to express, to be part of some kind of creative endeavor, arts, that's really what unites us as human beings.
Right.
It really is. It's a universal language. It's energy, vibration. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And there are many different styles of music, and we can all accept that and relate to it. I mean, it's beautiful. And I would love for people to experience singing with greater freedom, which is why my online program is called Sing with Freedom.
Yeah.
And a lot of professionals don't feel the freedom. They feel it's a job, and they feel they have to work around their problems, and they get it done, and there's a lot of stress involved. Perform 5 shows a week, whatever it might be. There's a lot of stress, and it's a tough job, frankly. And they don't necessarily feel that joy that they would love to feel all the time. But if we could do that, if we could experience that greater freedom, and I think it brings us together. I really do. And to be able to do it without necessarily being judged.
And therein lies the problem, right? It's all about, and that's why your program with learning at home first and not feeling that judgment and trying not to judge yourself, and particularly in the beginning where that's the natural state, that's what you think you need to do, and the sound doesn't come out, so you judge, or automatically you judge it.
Yeah.
But to be able to be with that.
Right. And honestly, that's why I'm not in competition with teachers, because a lot of teachers want their students to do my program, because then they can focus their lesson time on building the songs, the repertoire.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, so to sing with freedom.
Love
and express
it.
And play the piano with freedom.
Can you imagine all of it together? And that's what we're about. Creativity breakthroughs for humanity.
It really is.
To have everyone have access to that, whether it's singing, whether it's piano, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Let's just let everyone have that breakthrough and give them the access to it.
Yeah. And we can look at it in many different ways. I mean, a lot of people really feel a spiritual connection when playing music and singing. And we can also look at the science, what it does to our body. There are a lot of things in your hormones, the nervous system, all kinds of things that happens to you when you are engaged, and improves your life in many different ways. Your ability to focus, your stress levels, all kinds of things. So it's beautiful.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for us, Per. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been wonderful. And thank you to everyone else for coming along the journey of our first
Should we mention, by the way, if someone
Yeah.
wants to come to Melbourne,
Yes.
I promised you that I wanted to give a special Simply Music discount for people if they want to come. Can I do
Of
that?
course they want to come. Yes, of course you can.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to put it up here somewhere, but if they use the coupon code Simply Music, all uppercase, they get a 25% discount to come to the event as Simply Music fantastic people.
Wonderful. Well, we will absolutely make sure that we put that in the body of the post for you so that everyone can find out where to find you, your programs, your Melbourne tour. We're very excited to have you here. And hopefully it has better weather than what we're having right now.
We'll see. That's okay.
We'll see. It'll happen how it happens, right?
That's right. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Per. It's lovely to speak with you too.